What's up, everybody? Hello. Give me 1 second. Lee Camp's going to be here in a sec. Hello. What's up, everybody? Hello, Parker Garvey. Hello, Kenny, Sam, John, Matt. Got a notification. Right on. Ryan. Real love. Boy, to God, Lee Camp, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is. Lee Camp.
Whoa, it's showing me a weird split screen. All right, there we go.
Yeah, I'm using StreamYard now, buddy. A little better than the OBS.
Dude, you are big time.
I'm StreamYarding it, you son of a bitch.
Can I have your autograph?
Yes, you can. We have to do it digitally, though, because it's a coronavirus. Let me just share this real quick on the Twitter.
And then we're also doing, are you going to send me a Zencaster too?
Well, here's the thing. So StreamYard actually does both. It does audio and video. So you can export an audio and a separate audio file from StreamYard in addition to a...
And do we think that one side will be compressed or no?
All right, we can play it. We can back it up with Zencaster just to play it safe if you want. I don't know. That's a great question.
Either way, I don't care. We could do one this way and see how it sounds.
All right. I'd say this. I have had interviews on through this for my video, and the sound is pretty crisp from the other person.
All right. So let's just try it then. Okay,
cool. All right.
Yes. So wait, are we already live? We are live?
We are live. There are people watching us. We are live.
I was gonna take out my junk, but I won't do it now.
Well, Lee, I don't want to stop that. Maybe that's a government secret. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was just gonna say that once we get started for the podcast portion, I don't know if you saw the email I sent. We want to do the last part about MLK assassination, and first part, maybe we just chat for a few minutes about Kamala Harris.
Yes, I think we should. Right, we'll do MLK. We'll talk Kamala Harris, and then I want to discuss Cointelpro, their fine program that they did in the 60s.
Sounds good.
It's really great. They infiltrated the Black Panthers. It's fantastic. It was illegal.
That dovetails nicely with the MLK assassination.
Yep. I'm sure it's the same group of fine folks doing some fantastic business over there. So let me... All right, everybody, hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. All right, whose turn is it to start us off? I forget.
I think I'm leading this time. I think so. Just follow my feet as we go. All right, here we are. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Government Secrets. I don't do the sound effects that Graham does.
Episode 6.
Do you have any idea how many years of Juilliard he had to go through to get those down? Just perfect.
Literally, John Houseman's ghost came back to teach me how to go.
I think it was Michael Winslow from Police Academy. You almost got that role. You were so close to getting that role.
He was like magna cum laude and I was like signa cum laude or whatever. And I was like, he deserved it. I really wanted to be in the police story.
And the script said young black man from urban area. And you were like, I can play this role. I was born for this.
I'm such a good actor. I can do it. All I got to do is grab a microphone and go, you know, like, how hard is this?
Anyway, so here's what we're going to be talking about today. In a bit, I'd like to get into who actually killed Martin Luther King Jr. Not sure if you heard of him. He was kind of a big deal. But first, I thought we'd start off with, because I think this show serves two purposes. It's kind of the big government secrets that you know, from the past, from years gone by, and also kind of the hidden side of things that are very current. So I thought we'd chat about just how awesome Kamala Harris is, because that's what's in the news right now. And I know you're as thrilled as I am, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm so glad that the person that refused to prosecute Steve Mnuchin and George Soros, who were owners of One West Bank when she was Attorney General, who just mysteriously got also money from them for her both of her campaigns, Attorney General and Senate campaigns. I'm glad that she's in charge. And then Joe Biden tweets out that she's going to fight the banks. It's comical what's happening in our
comical
country.
Harris. I like it. Yeah, I mean, because I knew you'd be excited, because I remember you saying, I don't care at all what they stand for, just black woman. That is it. I don't care. She could just hate everybody and bomb children, and I'm cool with it. Just black woman. Yeah,
as long as, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she put 120,000 black people behind bars as Attorney General. Just,
and,
you know.
Did she actually follow through with it, or just said she wanted to lock up parents of truant children? Like your asshole kid doesn't go to school on time and they're locking you up.
Your asshole. Your kid is an asshole.
I mean,
let's be honest.
Listen, I'm all for a sit down where we're like, hey, listen, your kid really kind of a douche, but not prison time.
Well, I mean, the list of wonderful things goes on and on with her. There's that wonderful video of her giving a speech where she mocks people that want more schools and less prisons, where she goes, more schools, less prisons.
Yes. Like, I played that clip on the video I did, where she's like, they go out there with their little signs. You're like, don't make prison. I mean, don't make prisons, make schools or whatever. And so she mocks that. And then she goes, but they're not answering why I have 3 locks on my door. And you're like, you fucking asshole. You don't have 3 locks on your door because there's not enough prisons and too many schools.
I know.
You have 3 locks on your door because of massive inequality. Like, that is where most street crime comes from, is just immense inequality where people end up in pretty dire situations.
Yeah, and it's also like, that doesn't answer. No, it does. You just answered your own question. If we had better schools, you probably wouldn't need 3 locks. Not to mention the wealth inequalities that you're talking about. I mean, look, she won't prosecute the ruling class, and she loves throwing poor people in jail. I mean, she's been doing that. I mean, as district attorney in San Francisco, there was around 2009 or 10, there was a whole pedophile priest case. And
oh yeah, just that one.
Just that one time. One couple of bad apples. They sealed it off.
They got the bad apples, and now the bad apples just touch each other in a sealed room.
It's totally great. It's totally great. The Catholic Church, it wasn't globally a global cover-up.
I've often said I'm so glad that wasn't systemic.
Yes, it's not systemic. Look, I don't see pedophiles. I just, it's the same insane argument.
I'm very woke. I don't see age. So
yeah, it's great.
Any age, that's consent. That's legit to me.
Yeah, as long as then we got the couple bad apples, and we can all go to bed and rest easy. Jerry Sandusky wasn't getting kids for alumni. He was just one bad apple that they slipped through the cracks. But when she was district attorney in San Francisco, she wouldn't release the names of the priests that had been prosecuted. And the people were like, why not? And her and her office said, well, we want to protect the victims. The head of a victims' rights organization, an organization, all victims of pedophile priest abuse, said, what are you talking about? This doesn't hurt us at all. We're all publicly saying we're victims. We want and the public needs to know who these people are, because it's a threat. Because the Catholic Church, as we know, especially from the Spotlight movie, and that they shuffle these guys around.
And I read that she ultimately stopped responding to the victims groups. Yep. Like, wouldn't speak to them.
Won't speak to them. Like, that's who she is. And it's like, who's been, of all the candidates in the Democratic primary, who got the most from billionaires? Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I was just reminded of, which I had totally forgotten about, didn't even put it in my video about this, is she had said, it was either on a radio show or a podcast, she was like, yeah, well, you remember the take a knee Kaepernick thing? That was mainly furthered by Russia. That was mainly Russian bots putting that stuff forward. Wow. She literally was like, the Kaepernick take a knee movement was Russia.
Oh, that makes sense, because it's not like there's been slavery and oppression of black people for 400 years in this country. So that makes sense that it just...
and they apparently, because Kaepernick had surgery on that knee, and they had put metal plates in. Apparently, the metal plates were filled with Russian bots. So the Russian bots actually made him bend down on his knee, and he was like, "No!" And he just down on a knee. So. That's
such a Russian move. That's such a Russian move to put Very bots Russian. In a guy's knee to make him take a knee. Yeah, I get it. It's her legacy is so insane. And when people go, oh, you're just saying that because you don't want a black woman in power, I go, I'd love to see Nina Turner in power. And they usually go, who? And I go, oh, the black woman that the DNC wouldn't let speak at the convention in 2016. And
Nina Turner, guess who else is a woman of color? Tulsi Gabbard.
Yep.
They're not even allowing her on MSNBC anymore.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I'm just like, you're so hypocritical. Like, where was your outrage when the Democratic Party said a black woman can't speak at their convention? Where was your outrage?
Or when they gave AOC 60 seconds.
Yes. It's like
they just announced Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to get 60 seconds at the DNC, I guess, virtual event. They couldn't allot more than 60 seconds.
Well, this is good because they're going to do it virtually, because they can just put her mama bear quote below her. So no matter what she's saying, they'll make sure that she's acquiescing to the power structure of the corporate Democrats.
Yeah. They're going to put some crazy chyron underneath her.
It's just a mama bear #1 fan club or whatever.
It's just scrolling underneath. It's blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It's unbelievable how and I was watching CNN, and they had this panel, and they were all up in arms about Tucker Carlson mispronouncing her name. And he was like, yeah, whatever, let's talk about her policies. And sure, is he doing that intentionally to be a racist or whatever? Maybe. It's Fox News. Like, of course, like, and even if he is, and sure, it's a valid thing to say, oh, wow, women of color and, but it gets spoken down to, okay, fine. That should be part of the conversation.
But then also, like, that's the racist thing Tucker Carlson has done.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. That is over at Fox News.
That is the least racist thing Tucker Carlson's ever done.
I know, it's unbelievable, and then they're like, let's talk to these panel of experts, and it's all former Clinton strategist, and you're like, oh, well, this is a great 10-minute segment, because we're not going to talk about all the people she put behind bars for smoking a plant. We're not going to talk about all the other stuff that she's done. She won't be held accountable for anything great. It's another identity politics going to overtake the real discussions of voting record and where she gets her money from. Because she voted to confirm Steve Mnuchin as the head of One West Bank. And no one over at CNN or MSNBC can go, well, he donated to her campaign and she didn't prosecute him. Don't you think that's odd? No one's going to ask that question. They're just going to say, Tucker Carlson mansplains. And it's
and yet again, it's like Biden and Kamala Harris represent the way America functions. Like they are like a great metaphor where you put forward the, you know, one is an actual person of color. The other, Biden runs around saying, I care so much about black people. Oh my goodness. Oh, black people love me. He said on that radio show, he said, every black person loves me. I'm the most beloved in the black world ever. And, you know, he's saying all this stuff. And that's what's said. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, what's not getting mentioned is that he's put forward the most racist policies, the things that have locked up more black people than ever before, doubled the prison population. Kamala Harris wouldn't release people from California prisons, even when they were overcrowded, and they said we have to release some nonviolent criminals. And she's like, no, we need her office at least is like, no, we need the labor. So these incredibly racist policies, but on the front, it's like, look how non-racist and loving we are.
Oh, I just, like, the first time it was announced, I was like, oh, great. The author of the 1994 crime bill and the person that uses, puts 120,000 people of color behind bars, they're joining up. This will be fantastic. And the other thing too, that's so, like, is anyone going to talk about this? I'm sure we will, because we're, fires have just started in California. It's fire season now. There's a huge fire up here.
Oh, you just started your fire festival.
We just started our fire festival, which you can buy a bungalow for 10 grand.
Which by the way, I feel like LA is going the way of fire festival. It's just
for sure. Like
it's almost to the point where they're like, we'll rent you this mattress on the ground for $3,000.
Yes. And then you're going to get there and it's just going to be a soggy pillow.
Like, what? There's a lot of why is this wet going around.
But getting to the brush fire thing, to be real clear, she used prison labor to fight the fires. And
they're still doing that.
They're still doing that. And when these guys get out on parole, their parole's over, their good behavior, it's all, their records are done. They can never get a job with any fire department.
Yeah.
Yet they put their lives on the line. And isn't this what rehabilitation is supposed to be in our?
And they're getting like $1 a day when they're doing it.
Yes. So they got paid slave wages. They put their lives on the line. And this is what, wouldn't you want this to be like, hey, this young guy got mixed up with a bad crowd. He had a bad childhood, whatever. He went to prison. He learned his lesson. He fought fires. He put himself on, all right, he's done his time. He's paid his debt to society. And now he has a valuable skill. We need firefighters, especially in brush fire season. So let's give him a job and make him a productive member of society. Nope, he can't get a job. Gee, I wonder if then he'll have to go back to crime.
Because there's a law saying you can't be a firefighter if you've got a criminal record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's completely fucked. And I remember back during the last California fire season or whatever, or maybe it was 2 ago. I love how every year they go, there's a historic fire season. And you're like, yeah, everyone is a historic fire season. Do you get it? Do you see a pattern? But anyway, when I was covering it last year or something, I showed this NBC report or CBS report where they're like, I'm out here and I'm in the middle of it and there's fires. And as you'd see, the moment that a fire pops up, these firefighters arrive on the scene and they start trying to deal with it. And it shows these firefighters in the background. And you can tell, because I, Googled the uniforms and things, you can tell that what they're not mentioning is now out of the 13 firefighters they show running to put out this fire, all except one of them are inmates. Oh. They're in the inmate firefighter outfits. And so it's like, really, NBC News that flew a guy out to the front of these fires to do a report on this couldn't say, hey, by the way, these are fucking prisoners we've got doing this.
Yeah. It's like no one calls it out because look, Kamala and Joe Biden get money from the private prison industry, and that's what part of this is all about. That's why we have the 94 crime bill that was signed into law by Bill Clinton. And the private prison industry, I mean, I could do a separate government secret on this. I did a video on it of how the private prison industry in 1989 had a secret meeting with a bunch of record executives saying, we really want to push gangster rap because we'll get more criminal behavior, will get more people for prisons. Like the private prison industry paid for this to happen. And the CIA, I'm sure, was involved as well. And it's like, we have such a broken system that then this is somebody I saw put online. They like put a photo of two different dumpster fires, and they're like Trump Pence or Biden Harris. Like these are the choices, and it's insane. It's just the lesser of two corporate oligarch.
And the only people trying to put out the dumpster fires are inmates.
Yes.
That's how fucked it is.
I mean, I don't know. Like, let me ask you this. How do you see this election playing out?
Well, one portion of it that I just tweeted about, which I mean, to me, it's obvious now. It's like you kind of saw it coming, but now it's clear as day, and very few people are talking about it. Okay, so we've got the mass purge of people on the rolls. Some alternative media have been talking about that. 1 out of every 12 voters has been purged. And most of the ones that are going to vote will go vote thinking they haven't been purged. So then they get into a fight at the voting booth. Right. They sign a placebo ballot or whatever the fuck. And it creates a lot of chaos on that regard. But then on top of that, you have the pandemic. You have that's going to slow everything down. You have people mailing in ballots. Trump realizes this, so he's trying to say, oh, mailing's all a fraud. But he also, it just came out today or yesterday, that he's put his new guy at the head of the post office, and they have already said they're turning off something like 13 or 20% of all the mail sorting machines on election day, so that basically the mail-in ballots, or from here till election day, so the mail-in ballots they won't be able to process them at any good speed. So it's going to be chaos is what's going to happen on election night. Trump wants that. He knows he's going to, if it were straight vote count, he knows he's likely to lose. So it's going to be mass chaos. And the media is not saying, hey, for once, we're not going to know who the winner is on election night. Like, this is going to take a while to count this number of mail-in ballots, more than we've ever seen before. We just can't expect to know who the winner is on election night. They're not saying that. So Trump is going to run out and say he won no matter what. It doesn't matter what happens. He's going to say he won. And there'll be people running around saying, no, we haven't counted him yet or whatever. But all he needs is enough chaos that in the days after, the following day, that he can run around saying he won. And here's the thing, is the Democrats use this exact same trick against Bernie Sanders in Iowa, right? Yes. They knew that they didn't need to win Iowa. They just needed to make sure Bernie Sanders could not walk away with a legit victory. And so they created mass chaos with the Shadow app that was completely faulty, that they invented 2 months beforehand. And it was chaos. And they said, we don't know who's won. And the Buttigieg walks out and says he's won, and whatever. And it's exactly, they succeeded in what they wanted, which was just mass chaos. Bernie couldn't declare a victory. Done. And that's what Trump knows he needs. He needs chaos so he can declare victory.
The thing I agree with all that. The thing I will add to that is I think it's even a little more sinister than that. I was
thinking that was a little too genuine. It was really, it was loving and moral, and I was hoping you'd throw a wrench in the gears.
As much as that, your scenario makes me sleep well at night.
Let me guess, Graham. Your scenario involves MRAPs.
How did you guess, Lee? So I think they're going to use this because Trump knows that if he does that, and the powers that be that just sort of let Trump be crazy because they're like, oh, when he does this crazy shit, we can use it for this advantage and that advantage. So when he says that there's going to be chaos, there's going to be protesting. We already know, we had a nice preseason of police brutality warm-ups in the last couple of months of the George Floyd protests, and we saw, this is how they're going to do it. They're going to have unmarked vans, and people are going to go bananas, right? They're going to go bananas, and I think that many of us are like, when is like a real revolution going to happen? Like, all these protests are great, but when are they going to just realize we're all screwed? It doesn't matter. Biden and Harris are going to have unmarked vans snatch you up off the streets too if they get in the White House. Like, I don't think they get that. The MAGA hat people don't understand that they can get snatched up off their streets. So when all this chaos happens, people are going to take to the streets after the election, and it's going to be nuts. And they're going to thrive off this chaos. And what I've seen, I live near the beach, and so that you see helicopters when you're surfing and at the beach all the time. I've seen way more military helicopters in the air the last several weeks. I think they are hoping for, and they will use the chaos as an excuse to lock everything down into martial law. That's what they're going to do. That's my.
I don't doubt that could happen. I don't like to assume, martial law without, I don't know, seeing more that it seems like that's going to happen. But I wouldn't deny it could.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, the thing is that I do think might be part of their consideration is not Trump's. Trump is too dumb to think this way, but part of the kind of more state apparatus consideration is that sometimes you overreact to these things and you create more protest. You create more mass demonstration to a level that they can't control. And so I don't know that their first go-to is going to be like, just, put MRAPs on the streets and black bag people.
Right.
Because, I mean, even in Portland, you saw a bigger response once that started happening. I mean, Occupy, I don't know if we'd know the word Occupy if it weren't for the fact that they arrested 700 people on the Brooklyn Bridge and that viral video of women already kettled getting tear gassed. Right. If it weren't for the overreaction of the cops, Occupy very well might have been 2 weeks, a blip on the radar instead of what it became. So I think some of them think about that. I don't know that they just immediately think like, well, we get out the zip ties.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but I think yeah. I mean, and we saw that the first week of the George Floyd protest versus the second and third weeks, the cops kind of pulled back a little bit because they realized, wow. They were showing up, they were creating the riots, and more people were seeing this online, more people were taking to the streets. And so I do think that part of them are like, oh, if we react too hard, more people, but I think they're going to they're kind of like, because that first week of the George Floyd protest, that was the week I thought, oh, this is it. This is where we're like, they were burning trees around the White House. Like this is, they took over the Capitol building in Seattle. And I thought,
Eleanor Goldfield was out there filming when they were out there in front of the White House. I mean, I was there other days, but that day when they were burning, some people started lighting trees on fire, and then you could hear on the camera other protesters go out and put out the fires, and then the people that lit them were like, "What, dude? Why are you doing that? I just lit that." And the other guys being like, "They're trees, man. What? Don't put out the fires." Like. I just love the disagreement between the two. Like, but trees are friends.
Yeah, like
fire.
The environmentalist just was like, well, I'd like to burn this to the ground, but trees, they're good for the environment. It's funny if the fire guys would have just gone, we'll turn it into compost. And maybe they would go, oh, okay. And they would have come to some sort of agreement.
That might have come together. Well, yeah. I mean, I certainly hope you're not right about martial law, but for people who don't think there's a difference between Biden and Trump, I will say that I think in a Biden and Harris administration, the black bags would probably be lavender scented.
I agree. And I think they would be real. And maybe the vans would have rainbow flags on them. And it would be
or one of those like disco vans, which got like lights and
yes,
like a bad bachelorette party or something.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? You get a tiara. Yep. It'll be fun, and a sash. And definitely the people in the Middle East will be like, oh, whew, thank God we're getting bombed by Biden and Harris. Like, this is the lesser of two evils. We feel so much better.
There was some cartoon going around of like, it's like two women in the Middle East, and like there's a drone bomb coming down, and one of them says to the other, like, soon I hear that it's going to be a black woman's going to be dropping the drone bombs. and the other woman says like, oh, I'm excited to be part of history.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We are in insane times. The next, whatever it is, 2.5 months are going to be pretty nuts.
But then it should all settle down.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be great.
No,
Everybody.
I think because tired out and ready to just enjoy a day at the pool,
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. if Biden and Harris get in the White House, okay, great. Trump's gone. I'll be like, awesome. The 28 million evictions are still coming. Like,
oh yeah. No, well, that I haven't even begun like thinking or talking about that, but it's like, okay, so Biden gets in the White House and then economic collapse does not happen at that point.
Right.
Fucking kidding me?
Because even if he wins handily and Trump goes, you're right, I lost. Hey, we gave it a good run. He doesn't get sworn in until January. So that's November.
I've been thinking about that too. Can you imagine the childish, fucking megalomaniacal, I'm always winning Trump, what he's going to do during those 3 months? I mean, he will be walking around shitting on everything, like literally shitting on everything in the White House, like just trying to, fucking wipe his ass on everything he can.
And what are those some of his crackpot supporters? What are they going to do? I mean, win or lose, they're going to go nuts one way or the other.
Go back to the meth bong.
I hope. Go back to the meth bong. We'll be right back with Go Back to the Meth Bong, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Yeah. Shall we move on to something more positive, like the assassination of Martin Luther King?
Yeah. Yes. This is what we need. And then mine works into that one quite well.
Yes, it does. So I know I mentioned it last week, but
first of all, government secret segment number 2.
Yes. This is the continuation of last week. I mentioned it last week, but after saying that, I figured like we really should go through what actually happened in the assassination of Martin Luther King. And I had, as I mentioned last week, I had Dr. William Pepper. As I said last week, I'm sorry, his name is Dr. Pepper. You just got to deal with it. And he put out a book. He put out multiple versions of the book called The Plot to Kill King. Now, this guy is not some random guy who wrote this book. He worked with Martin Luther King the final year of his life, then ultimately became James Earl Ray's lawyer, although for like 10 years after Martin Luther King died, Pepper still thought that James Earl Ray had killed him. And so he was not his lawyer during that time. But slowly he started to realize the reality of it. And after that, he became James Earl Ray's lawyer. He also was the lawyer for the King family. So this guy has done nothing, almost nothing, but either represent or work with or write about Martin Luther King's execution for the past, 40 years. So if anyone knows it, it's him. Anyway, let me go through some of these points. James Earl Ray, who everyone in America thinks shot Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray said he was innocent, except for basically one moment where he agreed to sign the confession because he was told by his lawyer that it was the only way he'd get a trial. So he signs the confession. He then finds out he's not going to get a trial, and he recants his confession and sticks by that till his dying day, despite the fact that he was offered freedom. He was offered to get out of jail early, and he was offered money, like book deals and stuff, if he would just admit it and, write a book about how he killed King or whatever. And he always refused. He always refused the money. He refused to get out of jail early. He said he didn't kill Martin Luther King. So there was a trial in 1999, which Graham, did you know, like most people didn't know, did you know about this? The only trial ever held on the assassination of Martin Luther King was in 1999. And
in
1999, after 70 witnesses and 30 days of a trial, the jury, 12-person jury, came back within like an hour and said that the killer was not James Earl Ray. It was a man named Lloyd Jowers, helped others, combined with government agencies to assassinate Martin Luther King. This was a actual trial in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was even covered in Snopes likes to say that, this is false. And one of the claims is they do say the trial's real, but one of the claims is that the media did cover the trial, because one of my claims and others' claims is the media just ignored it. And so Snopes says, no, the media did cover the trial. And they point to one page A19 paragraph by the New York Times admitting the trial happened, but basically saying it didn't matter. So
in 1999,
the King family, represented by Dr. William Pepper, held this trial, a civil trial, And like I said, they found that the killer was government agencies, along with Lloyd Jowers. Now, Lloyd Jowers, let me get into this, was still alive at the time, and he was the owner of Jim's Grill. Jim's Grill is directly below James Earl Ray's apartment room that he was renting. So basically, they claim the shot came out of the apartment, whereas the shot actually came out from behind Jim's Grill. Now, Lloyd Jowers had decided to confess because he realized he was up against the wall. He, another witness, his former girlfriend named Betty Spates, had admitted that she saw Jowers bring the gun, the still smoking gun, into the grill from the back door and break it down in a bag, basically take it apart and put it in a bag. And she was terrified to come forward, but ultimately came forward. And so there was more than one witness, including her, that said they knew Jowers had the gun, the rifle that had been used. And Jowers was not the one that took the shot, though. Jowers helped two Memphis police officers take the shot. And they, I'm trying to skip down some of my notes here. They were named Earl Clark and Frank Strouser. And Frank Strouser is the one who actually took the shot, according to William Pepper. And Strouser had been at the gun range all day. He's a sharpshooter. He was at the gun range all day that day before the day before, because King was shot at 6 a.m. So he was at the gun range all day, and the janitor at the gun range didn't know what he was going to do, but knew that this cop, Strouser, was there all day with a special gun, practicing his firing all day. And when that janitor decided to come forward, Pepper had to keep it a secret because he was afraid, the janitor guy was afraid that he'd be killed if it came out. Strouser would kill him because Strouser had threatened him. So that guy finally dies. That's when Pepper is able to reveal that the janitor had told him all this. And anyway, Frank Strouser, when confronted by Pepper, he has no excuses. Like he goes, he pretends he doesn't even remember like when King was killed, like what time of day. Like he said, what time of day that happened? He goes 6 o'clock. And he's like, AM or PM. Now imagine you're a Memphis police officer. This is the biggest event. You're on duty. This is the biggest event to ever happen in Memphis, at least assassination wise. And you don't know whether it was 6 a.m. or PM. That'd be like a firefighter not knowing when the towers fell in New York, if they were in New York at the time. It doesn't make any sense. And anyway, Daniels Ellsberg also apparently signed an affidavit saying he had heard from reliable sources that King had been killed by men under J. Edgar Hoover. So the Hoover connection comes in because Hoover basically had his people go to Memphis and arrange it to some degree. They kind of outsourced it to this Dixie Mafia. The Dixie Mafia got Strouser to take the shot and worked with Lloyd Jowers. And, I mean, it's amazing how many different witnesses and things have come forward. And even the King family, like Dexter King went and met with James Earl Ray in prison and shook his hand and said, "I'm sorry this has happened to you." Because the whole King family knows that King was not shot by James Earl Ray.
Wow. And I wonder, let me guess here, is the reason what was the media talking about in 1999? Was it a cocktail dress and Monica Lewinsky? Was that what was going on in 99? Because a lot of things didn't get covered, like, Bill Clinton getting rid of Glass-Steagall and all that other stuff. So, wow, this is... Oh, man. And that's how the media works. I always say, like, whenever the media is screaming about whatever the big story is, I always go, how are they framing it? What do they want us to believe from this? And what are we not talking about? Whenever there's something big.
One of the biggest examples of that I covered a few weeks back, which was every time Trump would say he was going to withdraw troops from somewhere, a big story would drop about how either Syria used chemical weapons,
yes.
Russia's paying the Taliban to kill American soldiers. Like these amazingly huge stories that sound bizarre and have anonymous sources in the Pentagon always seem to just drop right on top of Trump saying he's withdrawing troops from somewhere.
Yeah, every time. It's every time too. And it's the same thing like, oh, impeachment was great to keep people distracted from, the economy collapsing or whatever, or Epstein or whatever it is. There's always some crazy distraction that keeps us from what's really going on. And here it is, probably one of the biggest stories of the last century, of that MLK was assassinated by the government, not some lone white guy, the lone wolf guy. And it's like
the lone white guy who also had an alibi that it was basically covered up that this had ever been investigated. But he said he left that room he rented, which was directly across from King's Motel. He said he left there before that, the shot happened, because he was going to get a spare tire fixed, or get a spare tire or something. And apparently 2 guys had seen him in his car, because he had a distinctive Mustang or something. And those 2 guys, that their testimony or whatever, what they said to police, that they had seen that guy, driving away before the shot was taken, that was just completely ignored until Pepper unearthed it, like in the 80s. So unbeknownst to James Earl Ray, there had been people that had said they'd seen him not at the apartment. Wow. I mean, it's just stuff like that. And then last week I mentioned how the following morning, because basically there were these huge hedges out back Jim's Grill, which is where the shot came from. And if you get rid of those hedges, all of a sudden you say, well, no, the shot couldn't have come from there, because there's nowhere to hide. It would have just been a guy standing out there with a gun. But so the following day, all the hedges are cleared out. Like a massive maintenance job is done the following day after this assassination to clear out all these hedges. It's just,
I love when a municipality just happens to do a massive project on a crime scene.
I mean, good for them, though, to really get that work done, because that, lots of times you can't find good people that can really get some hedges, uproot some hedges real quick. But they fucking did that job.
Yeah. The Ambassador Hotel in California got closed down real quick after the Kennedy thing. Like, oh, would they put a smoothie joint over where the grassy knoll was? Like, they just, wherever they just like, whoops. This was already on the books.
Come from the smoothie joint. I mean,
it's just like, oh, weird. The FAA has just announced that they're getting rid of flight logs. Oh, that's a weird one. Why would that happen? Why would they get rid of flight logs? Curious. This is like, especially when you get into the 60s, when all this real like radical revolution stuff was really happening, where people were like challenging things, much like where we are kind of ramping up to now.
Well, yes, but also it was a bit more of the Wild West, where the CIA would just kill people when they felt they needed to. Whereas now, like with Assange, they feel the better tactic is to like tarnish their reputation to a level that no one will quote them or talk about them, and then to also usually get them locked up for years on end. So they tend to have a more complicated playbook instead of just pure assassination, but they still will go there at times. But I think nowadays it's less just like a shot out of nowhere.
Yeah, they learned because too many questions were asked after all these assassinations.
Right.
I mean, and we talked about it on the episode where I brought up Bobby Kennedy's assassination. There's a lot of cover up. I mean, they benefited from that one because some people were just like, oh, we're still talking about the JFK conspiracy. Let's just put this to bed, but all of them, I mean, Malcolm X, MLK, Bobby, JFK, there's all this like, wait a minute. And they realized that just people ask too many questions, where you're right. They got more sophisticated.
Mary Meyer, JFK's significant lover, assassinated in broad daylight a year after he was killed here in Washington, D.C. We'll cover that on another episode.
Of course. There's all these. So now they've gotten smarter, and they smear the person, like you say. They just smear them so they can't come forward, or they get something on them and they're like, we'll take you down. Or they put them in jail. And you've noticed in the last 30 years or so, a lot more accidental deaths, a lot more lot more people like Gary Webb shooting himself in the head twice, and that's a suicide. We all know that's how you commit suicide: is you go bam, bam, you get two off.
Listen, you got to double tap on a suicide. Come on now, listen, because Graham, you don't know if that guy's going to get up. All right, so you gotta
good point.
Finish him off.
And like all of it. So like, like Seth Rich, which I know we're not allowed to ask questions about him, otherwise we're conspiracy freaks. But like, is a robbery gone bad, even though nothing was taken off of him or whatever? Like now it's always sort of.
And it's like that where that happened is like 1 block from where, I mean, it's like less than a mile from me, and it's like 1 block from where John F. O'Donnell lived, the Redacted Tonight correspondent. Mm-hmm. And it's like a really fucking rather safe neighborhood. Like it's got to be the only murder that's ever taken place in that neighborhood. Like at least in the past 15 years.
Yeah, and I love the robbery gone bad, because after you shot someone, you wouldn't at least grab the wallet, right? You wouldn't get something for your trouble. You just so.
Well, that's actually very similar to Mary Meyer, the Kennedy's lover I mentioned, who the argument was that in broad daylight at like noon, she would go for her walk along the canal towpath or whatever, and this black 25-year-old man just came up, like tried to like maybe rape her for like a second, didn't actually take any clothes off, just like tried to grab her, and then decided, no, you know what? She's yelling, I'll just kill her. And then like shot her twice, and then just walked off and was quickly caught. And cause yeah, that happens all the time. People just like, you know what? Maybe I'll just rape this person. No, I'll just kill him.
In the middle of the day.
Middle of the day.
And what could she possibly know? What mistress of a president? What could they possibly?
Well, I should save it for the next show. But she'd been going around. She was an aristocrat, if you will, in America. Mm. Her father was like the governor or lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. Like, she'd been close with JFK since they were in high school. And her ex-husband was one of the heads of the CIA, and she was running around saying that it was not Oswald that killed Kennedy, and that she knew that if it was him, that at least the CIA put him up to it. And anyway, that did not go over too well.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird when everybody has like real information about something. Suddenly, some horrifying accident happens. They just happen to do that. Well, since we got a couple minutes here, let me go into this that very much connects to what you were talking about with Dr. King. So let me see if I can.
And just to reiterate, and I don't get a kickback or anything, but I think everyone should read The Plot to Kill King, and make sure you get the most recent version. And if you read that book and still want to tell me I'm crazy or something, feel free. I'll enjoy that debate.
So I'm just reading a little bit from this. Cointelpro, which is Counterintelligence Program, was from 1958 to 1979 and beyond. I'm sure they got rid of it. I doubt they're still doing it. Is a series.
well, now it's just called Standard Operating Procedure. Back then it was a special secret mission.
That was just like page 3 of the handbook. Like this is one of the things. This is where the coffee maker is, and this is how we surveil the American people and get infiltrate.
Yeah, just like back in the day, CIA had a secret mission to put CIA agents into the media, and now it's just called Anderson Cooper. So
yes.
Much less complicated now.
And then we'll just run people like Pete Buttigieg for office. We'll just try to get them directly into the White House.
Speaking of that, did you see when it was like a quarter of all? It was over a quarter of all Democrats running were former military intelligence, either military or intelligence. Yeah, like they just ran reams of fucking military people as Democrats, and it's like, is anyone else concerned that even if the so-called Democrats win, you're just putting the military into these positions? Like,
They literally like, why they're like cut out the middleman. Why do we need a puppet when we just can just get a CIA operative to run the country?
And most of them, they were like proud of it. It wasn't like a secret. It was like, I mean, most of them, it's like on their resume, like after my 4 tours in Iraq, or after my years at the CIA, and now I'm here to help the people. Like,
right. Nobody knows the working class people of America better than a former Navy intelligence officer who was in some Skull and Bones group or whatever. So this Cointelpro was a series of covert and illegal projects conducted by the United States FBI aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting American political organizations. Right. Anyone that the FBI deemed subversive. They should have investigated J. Edgar Hoover. Including feminist organizations, the Communist Party USA, anti-war organizers, activists of civil rights movement or Black Power movement, for example, MLK, Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party, environmentalists and animal rights organizations, the American Indian Movement, AIM, independence movements such as Puerto Rican independence.
Man, do they really have to go after the animal rights people? Come on, dude.
Yeah, like how? I mean, come on.
Pigs are people too, all right?
Like, what's going to happen if they stop hurting, if they get their way and we stop hurting animals? Like, how does that hurt the FBI?
We all know before you can stop them, the cows take over the Senate, and then they start passing all kinds of crazy laws.
We all saw Animal Farm, so yeah, good call. Get rid of them. They start talking, it's over. Then they were also part of the broader New Left. The program also targeted the KKK. Well, I wish they would have gotten more successful with them.
That's called equal opportunity infiltration. They were like, no, we're also going after the KKK. Yeah, you know what it was? I bet you that it just came out that a lot of FBI and CIA were in the KKK, and they were like, we're infiltrating.
Yeah. That's what we're doing. We're trying to be fair.
That card in my wallet was part of the trick we were playing on them.
They also, in San Diego, this will be fun. Just in case anyone's wondering, I don't know, the government, do they really want to keep us all divided and fighting with each other? They went after those lefties because lefties are bad for America. Oh, hold on. In 1971, the FBI financed, armed, and controlled an extreme right-wing group of former members of the Minutemen, anti-communist paramilitary organization, transforming it into a group called the Secret Army Organization. So
nice.
They started targeting the Black Panthers in 1969, and they assassinated, imprisoned, publicly humiliated, or falsely charged members with crimes. Some of the members included, we've talked about this gentleman before, Fred Hampton, who I know, most people who watch our shows know, but for those of you who don't, was head of the Black Panther Party in Chicago in like the late 1960s. He, again, this is when you get yourself into trouble. He tried to unify Southern whites who lived in a neighborhood called Hillbilly Harlem, and said capitalism creates racism, had the first ever Rainbow Coalition. Oh, and then the FBI shot him like 700 times or whatever. So
that also was a suicide. He shot himself 700 times in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course they said, well, they had no choice because Black Panthers are armed, evil militants. So like, this is what they've always done. And I have no doubt that there's intelligent people inside the Proud Boys, inside any Antifa, on both sides to cause trouble, to get people fighting with each other. Anytime, like the Sunrise Movement was starting to gain traction, now they endorse Biden. So there's intelligence in them, probably. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to believe any organization, the minute they got inside of Bernie's campaign, or they just put corporate Democrats. Same thing. Well,
yeah, I mean, that's, I'm not much of an organizer, but something I try and tell people who are organizing movements is just assume that if you are, trying to create change, if you're trying to do something like defund the police or create environmental change or whatever, just assume you're going to be infiltrated. And you need to create an organization or create a system that you can have one person or 5 people or whatever join up who seem to want to cause a lot of drama and seem to want to steer things towards violence and all these various things. Want to say, hey, let's all sell drugs on the weekend, and just have terrible ideas. And you need to have a system that can still survive that can get past that. So you just have to assume you're going to be quote unquote infiltrated if you have an open organization you just have to assume it,
Yeah. And it's also true. I mean, this is just the documents from the 60s and early 70s, but we know now the private intelligence, which is now just like, they get even more money. They're more like, in the Five Eyes, they're involved in everything. I mean, I see it on my show in the chat. Someone will come in and try to cause problems, or there's some wingnuts on the internet. It could just be good old fashioned internet wingnuttery. But there's also people you come in, they try to incite violence. They try to get me to say crazy things because then I can be, if I'm like, I could be arrested for inciting a riot or whatever. They're trying to get me to say.
I mean, there's a lot of people that want to sideline or fuck up, people like you or me that do what we do. And sometimes it's connected to corporations. Like I know that back when the anti-Monsanto campaigns were kind of just gaining traction, and the anti-GMO campaigns, those were two where I would get just a bizarre number of hateful email. Lee, normally I'm a big fan, but you really fucked up on this, man. You're not reading the science. And you could just tell, like, if I'd gotten one of those, I would have believed it. But the fact that I got, 15, where the wording wasn't even that different. Those are normally funded. Those type of things are normally funded by the corporations trying to defend themselves. They will fund kind of troll armies to go after outspoken people that are getting a bunch of hits on YouTube. And then it could just be something as lame as what's James O'Keefe's thing, Project Veritas. Like they came, I didn't know it until the guy had left, but I was informed by someone else. But this guy came to the show and he didn't look like my normal fan, very close cut hair and everything. And he was like, hey, I'm a big fan. And talk about Pizzagate, talk about all the pedophiles. And like, he's holding a bag here, kind of pointing it at me. And I was like, I don't know, man. Thanks for being a fan. I kind of like walked away. And so it turned out he had a camera in the bag and he was hoping to catch me, be like, oh man, dude, they're raping kids in that Pizza Hut. Dude, Chuck E. Cheese. I saw his dick was out the other day.
Right.
And they were hoping I'd be like that so that they could release some video, I don't know, hurting me. But it's not just cops or CIA. It's also corporate infiltration of varying kinds.
Yeah, which is all sort of serves the same group of assholes. It feels like they're just all serving these just power hungry dicks, be they on the corporate level or on the intelligence or the military level. Just they got to get what they got to. We got to win. We got to get more. We're not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough money for war. Whatever their crazy thing is, because the thing I want to I'd love to sit these FBI guys down and go, what the Black Panthers and MLK, what they were asking for is just fairness. Like, just equality. Is that such a threat? Like, I don't get it.
I don't know which. I wish I could remember which comedian it was that said like, he's like, oh, my kid, I was telling him about Jesus Christ. And I was like, oh, where he asked about Jesus Christ. I was like, oh, he's this guy who wanted love and peace and, take care of poor people and stuff like that. And then my kid's like, oh, is he still here today? And they're like, no, they killed him pretty horribly. And then, later my kid was like, who's Martin Luther King? I was like, oh, there's this guy who wanted like peace and get along and like help poor people. Oh, what happened to him? Yeah, they killed him pretty bad. Yeah. And he just like goes down the list. Like,
it might be Neil Brennan. That might be Neil Brennan's bit, but I can't remember. But it's like,
yeah, I think it goes on to like John Lennon. It's like,
yeah,
well, He sang about getting beyond religion and property and really just loving each other. What happened to him?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the guy who wrote "All We Need Is Love." Yeah, here's the thing. Oh, this is gonna sound weird. Yeah, I don't get what the threat to everybody loving and getting along is such a threat. I guess we just need to push more of it so they really lose their shit.
Yeah. I mean, they really are afraid that if people just get a slight taste of like not living in massive inequality, so like a taste of equality or a taste of a world where no one fears that a illness will bankrupt them, or
Right.
if we just get even just a slight taste, then it'll all fall down. Everyone will go, this ain't so bad. Like, and that's what I mean, it shows how weak that, how feeble the house of cards is. If just that slight idea seed, propagates, it's horrifying. And, I was watching, here's another example, although a slightly different type of example. I was watching, have you seen the documentary on, you remember Biosphere 2?
Yes.
Where they built that bizarre thing in the desert, and back in 94, I think it was. So I just watched a documentary on it. And granted, there were problems in the organization and stuff like that. But in general, if you actually look at like what they started as kind of a hippie, like let's change the world group from the 60s, and they lived together in not quite a commune, but they still had a corporate charter and things like that. But it was a lot of equality and let's work together. And they built things. They built theater groups and fed people and built affordable hotels, and they did all these things around the world. And then they wanted to build this biosphere to like study how we could live, how we could be sustainable and live like in a closed environment so that everything was reproduced and we were living off what we were building and everything. And the ideas are all just like pure and just and like loving. And then like the media just started calling them like a cult, and he's a cult leader, and they're out of their minds and all this shit. And granted, the part of the experiment didn't work. They had to pump oxygen into the place because it didn't have enough oxygen and things like that. But it's like, so then just say like, wow, what they did was really impressive, and they just need to figure out how to fix the oxygen. Like, instead it was like, they're fucking liars and villains, and they want to destroy the world with their rainforest in a bubble.
Okay.
But the reason, I believe the real reason was because if that caught on, if the idea that it was just 8 people inside that thing, if the idea that 8 people could live in a little area and everything they have in there is just shared, and they like grow the way they live, and like there's no waste, and if that caught on just a little bit, then it'd be fucking chaos for them. Like it'd be the ruling elite would just be like, oh dear God, they're composting.
Then they won't. They're cutting up their credit cards. What the fuck is going on?
Right.
They need us all in debt, working to the bone, so that they can have their private jets or whatever. And then, God forbid, if we all get along, then they just can't have it. It's just like, it's like someone figured out how to talk to dolphins. They'd be like, shoot those gay fish, or whatever they would come up with.
I mean, it's the same reason they despise like Cuba on a level that's like just completely irrational. You're like, well, fuck those people with their health care. Why? How does that make any sense? Why? I understand you don't like their system. Why so angry?
I know, like they like it. It's like
most of them like it.
It's like it's such an American thing to like argue and fight about everything. Like, I remember when I was a young guy, I really liked chocolate chip pancakes, and I was out to dinner with a couple comic buddies of mine, my buddy Jim Bruce and Paul Goldman. My buddy Jim Bruce is like, I don't like these pancakes, and I argued with him, and I'm like, you don't, because I just don't like 2 things together. I either like chocolate chips or I was like, oh, you don't know how to live. And he
you don't know how to live.
I was so mad. I was 22 or something, all mad for no reason.
And I broke his nose, but I don't think he deserved it.
He did deserve it. I drone striked him. He had it coming. He knew what he did. No, and then he took like I don't know. He took like an orange and then the parsley because one of us got an omelet or something, and he ate them at the same time. He went, "I'm living," and we just laughed and like literally, I saw him the other week and we laughed about it. I was like, I wish I could go back in time, put my arm around my 22-year-old self and go, "Hey, buddy. You don't need anyone to just enjoy your pancakes. However, who gives a shit if he likes them or not? It's okay. You don't have to be all fighting about all this." I wish I could just do that with the powerful elite and just go, it's okay. If people want to live in a hippie bubble and don't use money, it's all right. Like
you can do your thing over there. They'll do this thing over here.
Yeah, you can just stay in the Hamptons and be just a godless cocksucker, and they're going to have their commune. It's okay.
I mean, yeah. So like, and here another thing I've been thinking about recently is like, look, I don't know that I don't know that I would enjoy living in like a commune type situation. But has anyone else find it odd that there's like none in America? Like if you were to have more than 5 people in an area that were just kind of like helping each other, like literally cops they'll like storm the place. Like there were articles about or news stories about it one in Texas where it was like, 20 people living on a farm and like the feds went in and like, arrested them for being off the electrical grid or something. Like it's the most
Look how
bizarre...
they treated the CHOP in Seattle. Like the news media covered the CHOP in Seattle. Like it's just mayhem and they're shooting meth into babies or whatever. And then I know all these people
they did do that to one baby, but it was to see if it made it powerful.
And it did. The baby was very strong. And then people like Ron Placone interviewed this comic from Seattle that was actually there in the CHOP, and he said all these people were getting radicalized when they showed up at the CHOP because they watched the news that said it's just chaos, and they get to the CHOP and there's like people helping each other out. Here's water. Here's whatever you need, and they're supporting the stores and the businesses, and it was like, nope, everybody getting along, and they don't need a militarized jackboot police force. Shut it down. Like it's just,
yeah. And then, as with Occupy, they started the cops basically. If you create a space, and Occupy is one example where you say, okay, hey, this space in our city is, anybody who comes here, we're going to help them out. There's free food for people that need it. There's basically just an environment that cares about people. Then a certain number of homeless people are going to come down there because they're like, wait a second, there's a square foot in the city where people care and give you food. Mm-hmm. I am there. So a certain number of homeless people will come, but then cops would just go around the city collecting any troubled person and then depositing them down at Occupy in order to create chaos and try and fuck it up. They also would, when someone would be released from prison in New York and not have a place to go, they would also take them down to Occupy. So it was like, oh, they've said they're going to care for people. Well, let's deposit every mentally ill person there so that it just creates, an untenable situation.
All the people we should be taking care of as a government? No, we're going to dump them in your lap. Ha, 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 you with your big heart, eat it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's our show, buddy, right?
I think that's the show. I think we did an extra long one for folks tonight.
We did it. We did it nice. Thanks.
Let's see. Yes. Thanks for doing this. And thanks for listening, everybody. We are now officially on all the platforms, I think.
Yes, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Podcast Play or whatever it's called. Nice.
So if you are listening and you wanted to listen to us, you can now listen to us. You can get us on any of the platforms, Government Secrets, and all my other stuff. My other podcast called Common Censored. My book is now 20% off if you use the coupon code, the initials of the title, Bullet Points and Punchlines, BPAPL is the coupon code. That's at leecampbook.com. My comedy special is free at leecampamerican.com. And all the other stuff is at leecamp.com.
Sweet. Of course, you can go to and if you are listening to this podcast, please like it, download it, give positive reviews in iTunes and all that stuff. Share it on your social media because that'll help grow the show. This is only our 6th episode, and then If you go to grahamelwood.com, you can watch my show on YouTube, Political Vigilante. It also is an audio podcast available on iTunes and all those other platforms. And then all my whole online store, I have Vigilante, The Dark Knight, Volume 2, which is a black tea, available. There's only 50 of them made. All my merch is on sale because I'm clearing out my my merch, and I'm going to come up with new products and stuff like that. So everything's on sale. Everything ships for free. Just go to grahamelwood.com.
And please make finger paintings of us. We would like that.
But if they're too lovely and nice, we're going to beat you up and set them on fire, you weirdo hippie, for making things nice. Yeah, so thanks for listening and watching, everybody.
All right, that's the show.
Goodbye, citizens.
So, are you going to continue chatting with your people?
I'm going to continue chatting with my people, Lee.
All right, tell them hi for me.
I will, buddy. Good having you on the show, man. Good to see you.
Later, man. Later.
Lee Camp, ladies and gentlemen, on the show grab, everybody. So, all right, everybody. I'll read the super chats and then I'm going to wrap up because Ron and I are doing the show at 7 o'clock Pacific time tonight. So let me bring those up. And of course, like we said, yeah, Government Secrets, we finally got, it took a while to get it on all the platforms, but now that it's up, so every new episode will drop. Of course, the episodes, we drop them on Monday of Government Secrets, and I will, for Political Vigilante, I'll take those 3 different topics that we did and drop those as 3 different segments on Monday as well. So please, and then, listen and download to the Political Vigilante podcast as well. All those are great. I always talk about the free ways to help support the show. Download numbers on iTunes and stuff like that. Stitcher, those numbers also help too, because if I can grow the Political Vigilante audio podcast, it can be another revenue stream. Thank you. I think, great comments, everybody. All right, let me, you're fucking awesome, Backyard Politics. Yeah, Jimmy is about to go live. So let me just read these super chats. And then let me read the super chats. Let me bring those up. We're stuck at 71,400 subscribers. Please hit the subscribe button. That's just insane. Like, it just drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy. Hold on. Hold on. Why is this such a thing? All right. This used to be so much easier to do. Now it's a problem. All right, everybody. Classic. Oh, I gotta get a chair. Hello. Here we go. Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button. Ember 33, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. Please talk with Richard and I about tonight. We'll mention Draft Jesse tonight, but this is like a full comedy show, so I'll try to do that. But it's like Ron and I are doing full sets, and then Steph and Jimmy, and I've told Steph and Jimmy about Draft Jesse. We'll bring it up tonight for sure to get everybody involved in Draft Jesse, but we want to keep it really like the comedy shows we've been doing. But we'll bring it up. Ember 33. Lee, please have Richard from Draft Jesse on. Yes, I will tell Lee about that as well. Sean Christian. Shave your knuckles for justice, Sean. At Sean Christian videos you will like. You two are heroes. Thank you so much. Zippity Day. What's up, Zippity Day? Thank you for supporting the show. Emberg 33. People think Marilyn Monroe was assassinated as well. Oh, it's a good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, a lot of people wonder about, since she slept with apparently both Bobby and Jack. Sketchy. Kate, shave your knuckles for justice. Enjoy every pancake. Yes, Kate. We all need to do that. We choose you. Oh, Jimmy was live the whole time. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so the comedy show tonight, sign up on Venmo at Graham Elwood. It's $5, and just put in the comment when you do it on Venmo, this is for the comedy show tonight. I will send you a little bit before 7 o'clock the Zoom link on Venmo. A couple of you couldn't figure out Venmo, so you did it on PayPal, so I will email you. But if you did Venmo, you will get the Zoom link on Venmo. If you contacted me outside of Venmo, then I will email you the Zoom link. But that's what we'll do that a little bit before 7 o'clock tonight. All right, folks, I got another show to do later. Difficult to say about Marilyn Monroe. She had some personal issues. Yes. Yes, you did. Snork White Duga. I learned later that was similar to societies in Pacific that degraded into cannibalism. Oh, boy. No, we're talking about cannibalism? That gets weird. So make sure you go to Venmo right before the show. 7 o'clock Pacific time tonight, a twofer. Thank you so much, folks. All right, I got to roll. Really appreciate doing government secrets. The whole audio will be out Monday. The video clips, the whole video and the whole audio and the clips and everything will be out Monday and Tuesday. Shave your knuckles for justice. We'll see you on the Venmo show tonight. And then the next time I go live will be Sunday at 3 o'clock. Political Vigilante, Sunday, 3 o'clock Pacific. Set your calendars, kids. You're making Gotham great again.